Hi, I'm Tom Kiernan, here in front of the Supreme Court. A little less than a year ago, the court made a decision that will likely harm you and the long-term quality of your drinking water. The ruling removed the Clean Water Act protections for over half of all of our wetlands and small streams throughout the country. These streams and wetlands are the beginnings of all of our rivers, and all of that water is connected. So when we lose the protections in our headwaters, those wetlands and streams, our rivers are threatened, and the long-term quality of your drinking water will likely be harmed. That's why we're sounding the alarm for clean water, and it's why I'm here announcing the 2024 America's Most Endangered Rivers. Every year, American Rivers conducts an analysis in partnership with local leaders, and I want to upfront thank those partners for their support and engagement, because we could not do this work without them. The campaign now is in its 39th year and is a powerful tool, and it has proven over the years that when we work together, we can achieve remarkable results. Now, we're at a time at which our politics are particularly polarized, and it's my hope that a universal value like clean water can bridge the divides of this country. Whether you're a farmer or a rancher, or a business person, or a family member, or a community, or an angler, we all need and value clean water. I hope you will join with us in taking action for America's most endangered rivers. And I hope you will speak up for stronger protections of these rivers, whether it's strengthening the laws at the state level or calling on Congress to strengthen the federal Clean Water Act. Clean drinking water is an imperative for our health. No one can argue with that. By protecting all of our wetlands and streams and rivers, we're ensuring a future where everyone has access to clean water. As you watch more of this video and learn about some of the rivers and the threats they're facing, I hope you'll be inspired and motivated to take action. Thank you.
"10 rivers, 10 solutions, 10 opportunities to protect the rivers on which all life depends." America's Most Endangered Rivers of 2024 shines a spotlight on threats to clean water and how pollution impacts our health and our communities. Number 1, Rivers of New Mexico. New Mexico is the state hardest hit by a recent Supreme Court ruling that slashed protections for streams, threatening drinking water sources and livelihoods across the state. Number 2, Big Sunflower and Yazoo Rivers. A massive pumping project would impact thousands of acres of wetlands vital to wildlife and the Mississippi Delta ecosystem. Number 3, Duck River, the drinking water source for 250,000 people and one of the richest rivers for biodiversity, is threatened by excessive water withdrawals. Number 4, Santa Cruz River. This symbol of restoration and resilience is threatened by climate change and water scarcity. Number 5, Little PD River. A major highway project is putting clean water and wildlife habitat at risk. Number 6, Farmington River. A hydropower dam is threatening fisheries and harming water quality in this important drinking water source. Number 7, Trinity River. This important tributary to the Klamath River is at risk from excessive water withdrawals, threatening both salmon and people. Number 8, Kobuk River. Road development and mining threaten clean water, wildlife, and Inupiat culture. Number 9, Tijuana River. Pollution is choking the river, causing sickness, forcing beach closures, and endangering local economies. Number 10, Blackwater River. A proposed highway project would be a disaster for water quality and fish and wildlife habitat.
Every time you take a breath, you're breathing water, you're connected to everything else that breathes. Water is life.
Right now we are standing beside the Rio Grande in Velarde, New Mexico. Where we're standing right now is where I grew up playing in the river with my grandma. This place is important to me because it brings me peace. I come here and I say thank you to the river. I say thank you for the life that she provides.
Northern New Mexico has abundant opportunities for mountain biking and whitewater rafting, fly fishing, hunting, etc. And so much of our identity as an economy has now been tied towards that outdoor recreation.
People and wildlife rely on clean water. We need clean water to be able to swim in the Gila River. Bears, mountain lion, deer, elk, all rely on clean water.
Behind me is where river water is being funneled into drinking water for Santa Fe County residents. This is an ancestral site for Tewa peoples. It's also the top of our watershed.
There are hundreds of thousands of people in the state of New Mexico who depend on this water that's flowing past us right here for drinking water. The Federal Clean Water Act has taken us from a country with rivers that were literally burning. So in the early 70s, we had rivers that were on fire. And then the Federal Clean Water Act was passed, and we've been able to clean up a lot of our rivers. The Federal Clean Water Act protects against industrial discharges that discharge toxic pollutants into our rivers. It provides limits on what kind of levels can come out of wastewater treatment plants.
The 2023 Supreme Court ruling removes Clean Water Act protections from between 88 and 96% of New Mexico's streams. So that leaves the vast majority of our rivers, our wetlands, our streams, and lakes unprotected.
The Southwest is really vulnerable to losing these kind of protections because our watershed is so precious that any kind of impact to our watershed and our waterways, whether they're a river system or a pathway into that river system, have to stay protected if we want our communities to stay healthy.
This acequia has been a vital part of this community and the valley. It provides water for irrigation, for watering of animals. So the importance of this river is great. Without this river, we would not be able to survive or have survived this long. It is very important to our culture and our traditional way of lives.
It is really important for our downstream users to be able to count on the fact that the water that is coming to irrigate their fields is clean and dependable.
You know, clean water is the lifeblood of my business and my livelihood. I take people fishing, and for people to have fun, they need to catch fish, and for fish to be alive, they need clean water and healthy streams. Waste treatment, water plants, old mining claims, all of these things, I mean, they can devastate a stream if left unchecked.
It's critically important that we have limits on the levels of pollution that can go into the waterways that we use for a myriad of purposes, that we use for recreation, for drinking, for agriculture, for spiritual practices.
The 2023 Supreme Court ruling impacts New Mexico more than any other state in the nation for two main reasons. The first reason is that the ruling takes away protections from many of the types of waters that we have here in New Mexico. So a lot of our waterways here in New Mexico don't flow year-round. They're dry for part of the year or for a lot of the year. These are called ephemeral and intermittent waters. And the recent Supreme Court ruling takes away protections from the majority of these types of waters in the state. The second reason is that we don't have a state program to fill in the gaps left by this removal and stripping away of Clean Water Act protections that is happening at the federal level in the wake of this Supreme Court ruling.
Anybody who lives here knows the importance of protecting our waterways. And those waterways don't always have water in them here, and we know that. We know that they only flow sometimes throughout the year, but that doesn't mean they're less deserving of protection.
If protections are taken away from this river, that will affect everybody up and down the Rio Grande Valley, central New Mexico, northern New Mexico. A way of life will disappear. People depend on this water to irrigate their alfalfa fields, or orchards, or gardens. We have depended on this for hundreds of years. This is our tradition, this is our culture. We don't want to be a people that loses its culture and its traditions because we haven't taken the right steps to protect our rivers.
The Yazoo backwater wetlands are home to one of the last intact bottomland hardwood forests in America. Nearly 29 million migrating birds rely on this corridor known as the Mississippi Flyway. Unfortunately, decades of flooding in the Yazoo backwater has significantly affected residents' homes and the wildlife that call this amazing part of the country home. Initially authorized in 1941, the Yazoo pumps have spent years as a zombie project that continues to be brought up as a potential solution to flooding in the backwater area. But the pumps have never moved forward because they have always been more of a problem than a solution. The Big Sunflower and Yazoo rivers of Mississippi are on the Most Endangered Rivers list for a 6th time this year.
This is the project that just won't go away. In 2008, the Bush administration reviewed a similar proposal. The EPA rightfully acknowledged the serious impacts that the project would have on the Yazoo backwater and issued a veto under the authority of the Clean Water Act. It's one of only 14 Clean Water Act vetoes the EPA has ever issued. But in 2020, ignoring this veto, the Trump administration revived the project.
In 2021, the EPA stepped in again and upheld its original veto, putting the project back on ice. But that didn't last for long. The Army Corps of Engineers has revived the pumps project and is planning to move it forward. The project would damage tens of thousands of acres of wetlands under the guise of flood control. This is especially concerning since the Supreme Court recently eliminated Clean Water Act protections for more than half of the wetlands in the country. Considered some of the nation's richest wetland and waters, now is not the time to put critical wetland habitat in special places like the Yazoo backwater at risk.
The Big Sunflower and Yazoo rivers are home to some of the most ecologically rich wetlands in the nation and support more than 450 species of birds, fish, and wildlife. With the recent loss in federal protection for wetlands, now is the time to protect the ecologically vital Yazoo backwater, not put it at even greater risk. The EPA's Clean Water Act veto of the Yazoo pumps was based on rigorous scientific analysis of the potential impacts, and it was reasserted by the Biden administration. The veto was intended to permanently block the construction of the ecologically destructive Yazoo pumps, including the revised pump proposal.
The EPA needs to uphold its veto and shift to an effective flood relief solution, using nature-based and non-structural methods to help local communities while conserving vital wetlands that provide natural flood protection and climate resilience, which is why the Big Sunflower and Yazoo rivers are listed together as a Most Endangered River.
The Duck River is a beautiful Tennessee waterway, the most biodiverse river in North America, beloved by all the communities it nourishes. Flowing for 269 miles exclusively in Tennessee, the Duck River is the sole water source for nearly 250,000 people within this largely rural state. If you were to travel the length of the Duck River, you would experience limestone rock, oak thickets, and agricultural land in the headwaters through hilly topography and cedar glades, culminating in a heavily forested region. These diverse habitats are the primary reason for the duck's diverse aquatic wildlife, including over 50 species of freshwater mussels and 151 species of fish. The Duck River is one of 3 hotspots for fish and mussel diversity in the entire world, yet many of the duck's mussels are federally listed as threatened or endangered, and several occur nowhere else on Earth.
You're looking at, second to freshwater snails, the most endangered group of animals on this planet. And right now, you're in a river system that has more species of mussels combined than all the different species of mussels in South America and Mexico. 80% of the species are in trouble. I don't think there's a single mussel species out there that I'm not worried about a little bit.
In addition to its globally unique biodiversity, the river is a coveted recreation destination for anglers, boaters, and kayakers, which serves a vital role to the local economy. Tennessee is one of the fastest growing states in the nation, and explosive growth in Middle Tennessee is having a major impact on our local waterways, including and especially the Duck River. Population and industry growth has led to extreme development pressures, and local water utilities are trying to dramatically increase the amount of water they withdraw from the duck.
Right now, we are on a collision course. This river is our lifeblood, but poorly planned growth will suck our river dry. The good news is, we can change course and wisely manage our waters to protect our river, our economy, and our way of life.
We must act now to ensure that the comprehensive water use planning needed to protect the river and ensure sustainable water supply is prioritized and fully funded so that the Duck River continues to be a place of world-class biodiversity enjoyed by Tennesseans for generations to come.
It goes back from generations. The water has been here. It was where families settled to grow their crops, live. The indigenous community first before us. And the elders tell the story of coming to wash their laundry in the river as well as take a bucket back home for their water.
We're replicating what used to be in our community when the river was flowing. My name is Austin Nunez, and I'm the chairman of the San River District on the nation. We are at what we call the Hickton project site, which is on the banks of the Hickton, as we call it. And we are in a 20-acre parcel of land that's been rehabilitated to resemble what used to be years ago when the river was flowing.
The Santa Cruz River is an amazing water body. It's also very highly threatened. It gets its water, for the most part, from the Colorado River, where due to climate change and due to growing population centers, the amount of water available to the city of Tucson and to Pima County is dwindling year after year. Fortunately, entities have been enacting water conservation policies that have created clean flowing water here in the Santa Cruz River from reused water or effluent that residents in southern Arizona use. It's treated, and then it becomes the flowing Santa Cruz River.
I think additional federal recognition has a lot of value for the Santa Cruz River and for the community that so values this river. You know, in the last few years, we've seen rollbacks of Clean Water Act regulations. So recognition from other federal agencies may enhance protections for the Santa Cruz River, which I think are sorely needed.
The proposed Santa Cruz River Urban National Wildlife Refuge would run through Santa Cruz County and Pima County, both south and north of the lands of the Tohono O'odham Nation's San Javier District. This would include multiple properties, either acquired from willing sellers or co-managed, to maximize community outdoor access and wildlife protection. A non-contiguous river refuge along the Santa Cruz River would recognize habitat connectivity, boost outdoor access for hundreds of thousands of people, and protect vital land from development. This is a community-led conservation project. We invite the entire national conservation community to join this coalition at santacruzriver.org and sign our petition to grab the attention of the Biden administration and at last establish a Santa Cruz River Urban National Wildlife Refuge. Southern Arizona's history and its environmental stewardship deserve to see this bold plan for the Santa Cruz River realized.
On this section of the Little Petey River, just looking out in the water and seeing the water itself is just so beautiful with that black coloring, like they call black tea. Close by, there's the convergence of the Little Petey into the Great Petey. Culturally, for the Native Americans in this area, had history here and so much activity up and down the Little Petey River. There was trade that was established well over 300 years ago. This river actually was that access for the tribes of the Petey and the Waccamaw, traveling, bringing deer skin, actually were the guides to help navigate the river. You're gonna know all about that.
Right. Getting lost on the river can be easy, especially on the Little Petey. There's so many tiny little creeks and tributaries and whatnot. Canopy can get kind of thick, and it can be very easy to get lost. I've lived here my entire life in this area. One thing I know is there's not always a lot of stuff to do. So this river is kind of the recreation point for most of the young people growing up. All races, all creeds, all backgrounds. No matter where you're from, people are always coming here, fishing with Grandpa, kayaking, just sitting on the banks of the river and just enjoying themselves. It's a free, simple option. Don't have to go far, don't need money to enjoy this beautiful nature and this beautiful river. So in some ways that hasn't changed. This river is still very much one that is used every day, every year by people of all generations. The Great Petey River looks kind of like chocolate milk. It's very muddy, it's very dark, as opposed to the sweet tea water that we have on the Little Petey, but when they mix, it is a beautiful sight.
I guess the concern that I have is that we'll have so much loss, and it's not just the loss of the environmental impacts to that loss, but it's the cultural impacts. Because with that disconnecting, that loss of connectivity, it actually creates a loss of community connectiveness. So bringing harm to the river is bringing harm to the wildlife that depend on the river. It also impacts humans. But the first to feel it are the fish species, the aquatic species, and the wildlife, because we know that all life depends on rivers. And our first frontline defenders is your wildlife, because they're on the river, they're living in this habitat. So I think it's our responsibility to make sure that these living beings, that we respect their habitat, we respect their home.
When you have impacts from development, you're going to have increased flooding. You're also going to have an increase in human population along the river, which isn't a bad thing. Of course, people love to enjoy the river. As you can see, it's a beautiful place to live. But at the same time, things have to be done in a good way. They have to be done in a responsible way.
When I think about the Little Petey River, I think about home. I grew up on the Little Petey River, and I have very, very few memories from my youth that don't include the Little Petey River, whether it's fishing or swimming or boating or hunting. Oh my gosh, hunting.
Great
and just having a good time on the Little Petey River, and it's home to me. As much as I love the river, as much as we love that beautiful water, it flooded my parents' house. twice during Hurricane Matthew in Florence. It was very destructive. They're proposing to have I-73 come right down the middle of Little Petey River. And as we know that whenever you've got an interstate and all that infrastructure coming, all these communities on each side of that river have flooded. Twice now. I mean, Mom and Daddy lived where they lived for 50 years, never had water in the yard. We know with that type of infrastructure, we have the wetland degradation, we have the deforestation. Without those wetlands, without that forest to suck up that water, I'm really afraid that these communities downstream and upstream of this proposed interstate is really going to make the flooding even worse for all these communities along the river.
And more recently, as a wildlife biologist, I managed that stretch for the state of South Carolina, the Little Petey Heritage Preserve, which is right where I-73 is proposed to come through. This is a rapidly growing area of the country, and we do need infrastructure to support the growth. We don't need to destroy our existing conservation lands that were set aside to be protected in perpetuity so folks can enjoy it, not just our kids, but their grandkids and future generations. We got to hold on to these wetlands that are protected. They in turn protect us through free ecosystem services. Right now is a really good time to act. There's a whole list of roads, and a lot of those projects are needed and desired by the community. But the two most expensive road projects on that list are I-73 and the Highway 22 extension. We cannot impact our conservation lands and devastate this river. And it can't just be the conservation organizations calling for the removal and no funding going towards these projects. It's got to be the community. We are so much stronger when we all work together and we all speak up at the same time.
The Farmington River is part of this much larger ecosystem.
The river begins in the pristine wetlands of Becket, Massachusetts, and flows 81 miles to the confluence with the Connecticut River.
The Connecticut River spans 410 miles, 4 states, and it ends up in the Long Island Sound. The Farmington River is this vital tributary. It provides countless recreational opportunities, provides clean drinking water, and it also has this great potential to be able to provide habitat for thousands of migratory fish in the region.
The migratory fish of Long Island Sound and the Connecticut River watershed are in trouble because dams and development have blocked spawning habitat and decimated their populations. These fish play a vital ecological role in our marine and freshwater ecosystems.
8 miles upstream from the confluence with the Connecticut River is Rainbow Reservoir, a 240-acre impoundment that sits behind a 100-year-old facility owned and operated by the Farmington River Power Company. Since there are no dams on the Connecticut River downstream of the Farmington River confluence, it is likely the best candidate to restore migratory fish populations.
The Rainbow Dam is about 100 years old, and with no major upgrades, this dam, we have learned, is no longer operating efficiently. And while the dam has a fishway, in 2023, the fishway was declared a failure and shut down due to its inability to provide safe and meaningful fish passage after decades of attempts. This outdated facility cuts off 95% of the Farmington River watershed to its historic migratory fish runs. That's nearly 600 square miles. Estimates suggest that the river could support large spawning populations of about 50,000 American shad, 300,000 alewife, 300,000 blueback herring. These are large and regionally significant spawning populations.
While many licensed hydro facilities make an effort to provide clean energy and reduce environmental impacts, the Rainbow Dam has skirted many of these responsibilities and is not currently required to assess its impacts. This has left the Connecticut taxpayers to foot the bill for the maintenance and operation of their fish passage facilities, which have never proven to be effective at passing migratory fish. Hydropower has many detrimental effects on river systems. It can alter natural flows of a river, it can cause sediment to accumulate, and it can impede the native habitats of migratory fish.
Recent data collected confirms that the facility is not running its turbines during the hot weather days until temperatures cool in the evening. This practice increases temperatures in the impoundment and starves the downstream reaches of fresh, cool water during the hottest part of the year. Upstream of the dam, severe cyanobacteria blooms occur in dry summers that create unsafe conditions for state boat launch users and children attending summer camp. These cyanobacteria blooms can be toxic and pose health risks to swimmers, boaters, dogs, and wildlife.
The Long Island Sound River Restoration Network is a multi-state group of organizations that are working to improve the scale and pace of stream barrier removals in the Long Island Sound region. The members of the River Restoration Network urge the Farmington River Power Company to take advantage of current unprecedented funding opportunities before they expire this year.
This includes changing operations to eliminate toxic algae blooms and to provide safe and effective fish passage. The Farmington River Power Company needs to be held accountable for dam operations to meet reasonable standards for public safety and the health of the river.
The company has had well over a century of largely unrestricted use of the Farmington River's resources. It's time for them to demonstrate respect for the river they benefited from and ensure future generations can enjoy it too. Working together, we can find solutions that restore and protect the Farmington River's resources we all care and depend upon, now and in the future.
It's hard to describe or put into words how connected people feel to the Trinity River, especially people from here. There's an innate connection that is really spiritual and important and special. I was raised here in this village, on this river, in this very place. We go to the river for food, we go to the river for prayer, we go to the river for spiritual connection, we go to the river to clean ourselves physically, spiritually, emotionally. It's hard to say that one piece of the landscape is more important than another, but it's one of the most important parts of the landscape and ecosystem that helps us connect. It's our identity. It's our life.
The Trinity River actually is, for the Hoopa people here, is like a lifeline for us. So we eat out of the river, and so basically that's kind of our store. People go to the store to buy food. We go to the river.
The role that the Trinity River plays in Klamath River health has not been talked about a whole lot over the past 20 some odd years, and even prior to that, with less attention, the Trinity River has been used to augment flows in the lower Klamath, when flows on the upper Klamath and water quality on the upper Klamath is dangerous and toxic and causes health problems for fish and people. The Trinity River is the relief that the lower Klamath and the salmon have relied on to make it. I wouldn't say make it strongly. I think we're at survival levels, we're not at thriving levels. The Trinity River is really valuable for that purpose, but yet, we continue to fight for flows in the Trinity River to remain at a level that can sustain that type of relief.
The Trinity River is the largest and coldest tributary to the Klamath River, and it's critically important for keeping the Klamath salmon alive. There was a decision made about 10 years ago called the Lower Klamath Long-Term Plan, which stipulated that any time a large fish kill started in the Klamath River, the way that the large fish kill of 60,000 adult salmon happened in 2002, that Trinity River water is to be released to stop the fish from dying in the river. And about half of the Trinity water is diverted to the Central Valley, to the Wetlands Water District, who grows almonds mainly with that water. So right now there is plans to build a new reservoir called the Sites Reservoir on the Sacramento River. And then there's plans to make the Delta Tunnel, which would take some of that Sites water and a bunch of Sacramento water and take it down to SoCal and to farms. So those plans threaten the Trinity River.
But it's been a continuous battle. In the 70s, we had a fight for the water rights. The summertime, we always put fish on. And the saying is fish on till all the fish are gone. We've had this river forever, and it's our lifeblood. And our people have been fighting for it since time immemorial. And we will continue to fight for the water, fight for our resources, and fight for our salmon.
We don't get 53% of our flow. I think we would get less than half, and it goes the other way. Due to the climate change that's coming around, it's getting worse and worse. And at some point, we're going to have to cut off the Central Valley on the version at Lewiston. California water is over-allocated. A lot of their water is paper water. It doesn't exist.
So what we're asking for is protections for the carryover storage for the Trinity River so that the water can be used to keep the Trinity River fish and river itself clean and healthy, and so that it also can help keep the Klamath salmon alive, especially at this time when dam removal is happening, because this is, like I said, the coldest, cleanest source of water to the Klamath Basin. That water is needed here. It's not needed to grow almonds in the Central Valley, and it's not needed to take water to Southern California.
The Trinity River is our lifeblood. It's a place that we live. It's where all of us come together. We drink the water. We live in harmony and peace. So everything takes water. We live in, we always call it the Garden of Eden. This is really a beautiful place. So water here is our life.
The free-flowing Kobuk River originates in the heart of America's northernmost mountain range, the Brooks Range, and flows west to the Arctic Ocean. From October to May, the river is frozen, covered by a thick layer of ice that becomes a winter highway for wildlife and people. The river has long supported the Inupiaq with its natural resource bounty, including intact salmon runs, abundant waterfowl, the western Arctic caribou herd, and spawning grounds of the famed sheefish.
Wow,
The salmon runs also support a locally based commercial fishery that provides jobs and income to over 100 families in the area. The Kobuk River is rich in archaeological evidence, including the renowned Batitaak, or onion portage, where the Inupiaq have hunted caribou for more than 8,000 years. Today, 5 Inupiaq communities sit along the Kobuk River, as well as scattered family fishing and hunting camps. The Inupiaq have been excellent stewards of the Kobuk River for untold generations. The state of Alaska has proposed building a 211-mile industrial road cut in from the Dalton Highway to develop many open-pit mines, which would also intersect village subsistence areas, salmon and whitefish and seafish spawning grounds, caribou corridors, and gates of the Arctic National Park and Preserve. This road would cross over 160 rivers and streams, including the Kobuk River and its watershed. According to the Bureau of Land Management's own supplemental environmental impact statement, subsistence access for 66 remote villages would be reduced if the Ambler Road is approved. The Ambler Road development presents a food sovereignty issue in communities that do not have year-round employment and depend on the land for their food, culture, and way of life.
We harvest so much off the land and the water because we have the highest cost of living. Our land is our life force. Our Kobuk River is one of the very few last pristine rivers that we have.
In the fall and winter of 2023, Kobuk River residents and people from across the United States submitted over 135,000 comments to the Bureau of Land Management.
The more that we fight, the less that our children will have to fight. I want grandchildren that don't have to fight to occupy their rightful place on this planet.
We ask the public to take immediate action by signing the petition to BLM, Department of Interior, and President Biden, requesting that they revoke all Ambler Road permits.
The Tijuana River is the heartbeat of the San Diego region, spanning 1,750 miles across deserts and mountains.
An estuary is where the river meets the sea, and in our case, it's where the Tijuana River meets the Pacific Ocean. We're based in the United States. here in Imperial Beach, California, but our watershed spans the U.S.-Mexico border. We're a place that is really one of the last intact coastal wetlands we have left in Southern California.
Our people used to follow this river all the way down to the ocean, and actually it was a lifeline of our people. The Tijuana River is special to the Kumeyaay people because our people traveled back and forth before there was a border.
Environmental pollution and degradation are currently threatening the Tijuana River Valley, and border communities are bearing the brunt of it. These year-round transboundary flows, measuring approximately 35 to 50 million gallons per day, contain untreated sewage and stormwater that is contaminated with trash and industrial pollution.
Sadly, we have a generation of youth that are off to college that have lived their entire lives knowing nothing else but having sewage polluted beaches.
Some of the issues I noticed as a kid was just the smell of the water was not pleasant. I would walk at the estuary almost every weekend and on the beach as well. It's not fair to my generation, previous generations, and the future generations to have this issue not be fixed.
I think with any transboundary river that crosses multiple jurisdictions, the problem and the solution is multifaceted. And it needs to come from all of those jurisdictions working together. It's not purely a Mexico problem. It's not purely a United States problem. It's an international problem. And we need everybody at every level of government and in every impacted community and in every community that's an ally.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us in calling on our President and Congress to act now to address this national emergency.
The Blackwater River, located in Tucker County, West Virginia, and threatened by the West Virginia Department of Highways' plans to build a 4-lane highway through its sensitive watershed.
My name is Sandra Sirian Goss, and Walt Rinaldi and myself are owners of Sirianni's Restaurant in Davis.
We opened in 1988, and now when I look at our business, we are a tourism area. We were then, but no one recognized it. And people come here for its natural beauty, for the flora, the fauna, the rivers, the landscape. It's just, there's something about the mountains in West Virginia and in Appalachia that they sort of heal you and sort of hold you together.
And they're very welcoming.
And they welcome people. Particularly in West Virginia, we're known for being an extraction industry place. If we don't cut it, burn it, sell it, get rid of it, it's not an economy, but that's not the case anymore. I mean, we can build a wonderful...
The economy is the beauty and the recreational facilities that are available in this area. And that is our gift.
Because that echo down that canyon will ruin part of the reason that people come here in the first place.
Why do we want a giant, ugly, 4-lane highway running between these two towns? We don't like this idea. There's another route. It goes north of this area and avoids all this important history that is so dear to the hearts of local people and cherished by visitors. So let's push the route north. You still get a route, and you don't hurt history. You don't hurt the Monongahela National Forest that owns this lovely trail, which we are working to improve, by the way, and doesn't hurt the river. Right behind these coke ovens, a lovely little river that's being cleaned up, but will be forever damaged by a giant bridge. If it moves north, we do not need the giant bridge. We don't need to damage the water. We don't need to hurt the heritage site or the Monongahela National Forest. And we don't need to divide the two historic towns that are so popular with visitors. No, never go north. This is a mistake.
I'm Matt Marcus. I'm the manager of Blackwater Bikes in Davis, West Virginia. One of the former owners of the bike shop. The bike shop's been here since about 1984, and it's crazy because the town of Davis only has like 600 people in it, and the bike shop has thrived. It's all about the visitors coming in, and they're wanting to get out into nature. They want to go out and see wildlife. They don't want to see a big highway. To see the road go between Thomas and Davis and across the North Fork in Coketon would be a huge degradation of this area in my mind. And really, the big overpasses, the big 4-lane highways are what I was trying to get away from when I moved here. And I don't want to see it destroy the area that I came to be in. For the quiet and the nature and the trails. You have rock climbing, you have whitewater rafting and kayaking, you have downhill skiing, you have cross-country skiing, you have mountain biking, you have hiking, you have camping, you have wilderness areas, you have nature walks. I think this area is great. I think we need to really focus on, if we're going to build this highway, which it sure looks like we are, that we do it the best way possible.
These 10 rivers are great examples of how the loss of Clean Water Act protections can impact a river. And as our local partners know all too well, an unhealthy river can have a significant impact on the communities around it. I want to thank our dedicated partners. We're proud to stand with them in the effort to protect and restore these rivers, and we're grateful for their leadership. I hope you'll join with us today to take action for clean water, for public health and safety, and for a better future. Thank you for your support. Together, we will make a difference for our rivers.